I'm based in KZN, and today we are going to be speaking about Robotics 2021. I'm so chuffed, folks, and I have to say that very loudly. I'm so chuffed that we're actually talking about next year. We are tired of talking about this year, so it's really great. And we've got Rajesh on board. He's going to speak to us from Absolute Robotics. Riaan van den Bergh is firstly going to introduce Rajesh and a bit of the work behind the scenes that happens. Just so that you know, the session is being recorded. I just need to check that it is being recorded. If you want to ask questions, please type into the Q&A box. You'll see the Q&A box down there in front of you. If you wouldn't mind dropping something in there right now, just to let us know that you're on board or that you're here. I see there has been a hand raised. We're going to concentrate primarily on the Q&A box, folks. So if you wouldn't mind, if you've got questions, just type something in there. I presume the hand raise is just to say welcome here, and it's really great to see that. We aren't going to use that necessarily to open the session. We're expecting about 100 folks on board today, so that is going to be quite busy. We have got Alreta in the background who's going to be helping us with a bit of the admin. So if you wouldn't mind, just interact a little bit with us with the details from there. As mentioned, we are recording this session, and we will be streaming it through into Facebook Live as well, so it will be able to be picked up. We will send a shared file through to you later of the session, so that you can pick up the details and share it with anybody who possibly couldn't have made the session. Our provincial managers throughout the country, there are their contact details, and please get hold of them. We are going to share details of Rajesh's contact details during the session, but our provincial managers are there available for you to get in touch with them. I'm quickly just going to run a poll, and if you wouldn't mind all responding to that, just to give us an idea of who's in the session with us today. Who is with us today? We can see your names. We know your names are there. We presume there are people behind that, but we'd like to know the roles that you play in the school so that we can get a bit of an idea of who we're speaking to. And then once everybody has just completed that, I'll just share it so that both Rajesh and Riaan have got a bit of an idea of what the audience is about in the process from there. Principal, SGB member other than the principal. The principal is an SGB member as well, just to remind you of that. School IT administrator, slightly different to the IT champion in the school. RCL members, it would be great if there are a few learners on board, but I don't see any tick boxes in that yet. Parents, we don't have any parents, and there is a broader category of other. So if you aren't classified as any of the above there, if you wouldn't mind just filling that in from there. The experts tell us that if you don't respond in a minute, you're probably not going to respond. So those of you that haven't responded, you've got exactly 2 seconds left to respond. We'd like to get to about a 70% vote so that we know we've got fair numbers coming through. I'm not going to spend too much more time on that because Rajesh has got a lot of vital information that he'd like to share with us. So thank you everybody for putting your details in. I'm just going to share the results just so that we can see what sort of attendance we've got on board today. 9% principals, 20% SGB members, 20% school administrator, 12% IT champion, no learners sadly, but we'll work on that, we'll keep working on that, and 40% in that maybe vague category of other. So thank you very much for that. That will give Rajesh at least a bit of an idea of the audience today as well. And then I'm going to hand straight over to Riaan. Welcome Riaan to today's session. As I said before, I'm so mightily chuffed that we're looking at 2021 already. Like a lot of people, I think I'm a bit tired of 2020. So over to you, Riaan. I'll stop sharing and give you a full screen there.
Thank you. Middag almal, dis lekker om saam te wees. Ek sien in die presentielys 'n klomp bekende name en gesigte, maar 'n klomp nuwe name. And Rajesh, I'm expecting of that 40% other that quite a few people would be educators, teachers at school in playing this. I'm quickly going to share my screen. We're going to mainly do this session in English, which is the Tech Talk standard, but any questions in Afrikaans, very welcome. Okay, what am I sharing now? Not this. Did I share my PowerPoint, Paul? I don't know which one came up. Yes, it did. Okay, so everybody, Tech Talk at 2 is a weekly event, 'n regtige instelling wat ons soveel goeie terugvoer oor kry en baie dankie dat julle weer deelneem. The fact that we have about 150 registrations means that what we're talking about today is really relevant. And the Center of Technology, I always want to frame why we do these discussions. This is not just a showcase for someone that has a great solution out there and want to sell a product to schools. But we're really looking for solutions in the tech center to assist schools and navigate the future. For 2020, we did a lot of navigating of COVID, and I think Paul alluded to it, that we're so glad to be talking about 2021 as well. But before COVID, the Center for Technology aimed to assist schools to navigate the 21st century. And the 21st century is now 20 years old, and we're still somewhere stuck in how do we fit into this? So we're in the roaring 20s of the 21st century. And recently, a lot of the buzzwords, coding, robotics, fourth industrial revolution, all the jargon, AI, AR, VR, and all of that became fluffy and very mystified. Are you doing robotics? I want to chase us back to the essence of why we're doing these things. And this is what Rajesh speaks to so well, in a sense of what the skill is that we're teaching our learners by doing robotics. Because you can also have a robotics club that's a toy and a play club, but if you make it part of the learning journey. So we're going to be looking at some of those issues today, and thank you for joining us. Just want to refresh your minds and memory. Paul said that we're streaming live to Facebook. There's a recording of this, but all the tech talks are on YouTube. If you go to the FEDSAS YouTube channel, you will see all the tech talks. They're free resources, and over the past few weeks, we've had a lot of requests for previous recordings, especially based on the e-governance, the electronic elections, AGMs, and that kind of thing. So there's a resource that we can use on demand, and it's available to all. Recently, we entered the budget cycle for schools, and I think this is what makes today's discussion also relevant. We've got a plan, because if we miss the budget, we miss a year. Rajesh is going to talk to us about some differing models to finance this process at a school. But yes, keep the budget cycle in mind. Along those lines, we published an e-magazine that is really flying at this point in time. We've got more than 1,000 reads on that. And yesterday, we sent out a newsletter for some feedback on that. And I think Paul will put the link to the e-magazine in the chat box. But if we get feedback on that, when we get feedback on that, in a week's time, we will close the survey, and the lucky winner, we will draw, all the names will go into a lucky draw, and the winner will get our e-publication Practical Guide to School Governance that's available in 11 languages. So look into that. To get closer to today's topic, over the last year or so, the Department of Basic Education has put a lot of focus and even distributed some plans of a pilot rollout in certain provinces, 100 schools nationwide, to be selected to be the rollout plan for the DBE's curriculum of digital skills, including coding and robotics. At this point in time, that process is fairly quiet, and I don't know much about it because I think the Department of Education also are fighting to just stay ahead on the COVID front of things. But this is part of our future curriculum. It's going to come in one way of one form or another because it's an important skill that we need to get. So I just want to put focus on it. This is not outside of core business. This will be included in the curriculum in the next year, 2 or 3 with that. Rajesh is going to open with a little bit about his business and what they do for schools, but we're going to look at a practical approach. And I want to ask the audience to go to those questions of how do we get practical and implement this? And he's going to show us some case studies of that. And then models of engagement. I want you to think of the creative ways of who do we get to fund this? Is it a parent payment? Is it a school payment for specific learners? Is it a school payment for the bulk of the learners? How we go about that? And we're trying to get very practical today with it. And in saying that, I'm going to introduce Rajesh from Resolute Robotics. And I think we all know the 3 R's, but there are 3 new R's on the page today. That is Resolute Robotics and Rajesh, not reading, writing, and arithmetic. But we got to expand the 3 R's in education. So Rajesh, you can open your mic and I'll stop sharing and you can go with the show. Thanks so much for joining us today. I know it's not your first time with the FEDSAS audience, but I think some people haven't seen you before. So just give us a short intro of yourself and then run with your presentation. And anytime we can chase rabbits, so put something in the Q&A if you're in the audience. Thanks so much, Rajesh. Welcome.
Dank je, Riaan. Is het reg as ek in Engels praat?
That is 100% reg.
Exactly.
But your Afrikaans was good. Thank you for that.
I've been practicing it the whole day. I'm joking.
Excellent.
Thank you everyone for attending and giving us your time. I'm very, very excited and passionate about it. Just a bit about me. My name is Rajesh, as Riaan mentioned. I studied electronic engineering at Tux, and the dream and the passion as an education enthusiast has always been that feeling, the overwhelming feeling I had in engineering, and so did 95% of my peers, of no clue what's happening walking into university. We want to address those concepts, and that comes in the form of robotics and coding from a young age. So yeah, I would like to share my screen now and share a little bit about what we do, and hopefully suggest some ideas that can really help schools. I think our biggest aim is, to partner with the school more than anything. So it's really key that at the end, if you ask as many questions as possible, we'll be more than happy to answer it. Cool. To start off with, so the agenda for today, I'm just going to go through the rough tech journey, ideally of what's relevant for a kid in these days, a student. I'd like to go through our offering, a robotics model, and how ideally it would fit in your school, and kind of end off with some case studies of some schools that are really doing it right now with us and how it's working so successfully. So to start off with, the tech journey, I think there needs to be a very clear understanding when I think what Riaan said in the beginning is so critical. There's a big confusion and everyone wants to do robotics and coding, and schools are investing lots of money into Lego and 3D printers and Go Labs and this and that. And I want to provide just some clarity on what robotics actually means and what is the tech journey. So when you look at technology outside of the schooling realm, there are three big fields in it. It's your engineering, which is what we call robotics. That is your hardware and software projects. There you look at concepts such as automation, system design, integration analysis, your C++ programming, and your advanced electronic circuits. Then you move over to computer sciences, which is all your programming stuff, which is app, game, and web development in languages such as C#, Java, Python. I mean, these are the lingo that you'll hear in the space. And then third is data sciences. And this is the most popular word in our space is AI, fourth industrial revolution, and the future. That's where data sciences come from. But to even get to data, I mean, it's critical from a schooling sense. It's very important to go through the fundamentals, right? So Scratch block-based coding, which is what most Legos are used for, Tinkercad simulation softwares, your circuit theory. I think if you master this, then we can look at going into your different projects. And what we at Resolute offer is a program that kind of covers across the stream, where you start with us from fundamentals and we take you all the way to data sciences. So excited to show you a bit about that today. So our offering, I mean, it's a comprehensive robotics offering that includes like a 40-week lesson structure. We do provide assessment structures and exams for schools as well. There's our lesson structure. We split all our lessons into instruction and notional time, so teachers know what to teach in class and how long it will take the kids to actually do it. And more importantly, what is the most successful aspect of our business is that we have a complete online platform where every single project is online based. So it's a user-friendly online platform. We do theoretical videos from explaining everything from scratch of what an Arduino is, how do motors work, what are batteries, what is coding, what is for loops, and not just merely go through the motions. We teach practical videos, design videos on how to do that, and also just game development fun videos towards the end of your learning experience. We do offer reusable robotics kits, which is extremely cool. Yeah, Riaan?
Just I quickly want to touch base on that previous slide, if you may. Just the value or the benefit of an online user platform. Just expand a little bit on it, because I immediately see myself as a parent and a SGB member, as well as a dad that wants his kids to do this. But this can take place at school in hours, or it can take place at school after hours. Or this means that there's an individual participation in the online platform. So it's an on-demand, one-on-one kind of interaction. Or where does the benefit lie in it? And it can also take place then in a COVID era where we're not allowed to do extramurals at this point in time yet. But in a post-COVID era, this is a great way of not using resources at school, but still interacting with kids on an online basis and work through the school. Just color in where the benefit can lie for this in a school.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Thanks, Riaan. So I think it's critical. I just want to start that off with my journey. I mean, I took IT in high school just because, you're good at maths, you needed the IT, so you took it. And then in grade 11, I dropped it. I was like, I just don't understand it. There isn't a clear way of explanation. And then I had to learn it in fourth year while I was doing my final year project. And I think without an online platform, firstly, for a school perspective, to teach circuit theory, where to plug in wires, and to teach coding from an audience perspective into 25 students, it's very difficult because very few kids actually have the knack for it and they get it. Other kids learn from watching. And so one of the benefits of actually having an online platform is you'll have 15 students and 10 will actually pause, try it, redo it. And it gives you that chance for the teacher to actually be an incredible facilitator and to walk around and to see how each students are doing, and gives each kids a higher chance of success rate rather than someone teaching from the front. In a post-COVID world, I mean, it's absolutely fantastic where kids can watch it in class. We can have an offline version available, or everything is online. You get licenses. So you watch it during class time, but more importantly, if the kids want to take it home as well, they're more than welcome to go finish the game development videos and their projects at home. And post-COVID, I mean, it's a very scary thought, but it's not over. And next year we could still have social distancing and extramural clubs not being allowed. I mean, this gives you the opportunity to essentially give a kid a kit if necessary, and he can carry on doing the whole program at home because everything is there. And the teacher then plays a really critical facilitator role. Riaan, are you happy with that? Thank you. So our reusable robotics kits. So I think if you get them once, it's a box like this. In each box, we offer about 4 courses that actually goes in there, and I'll discuss more about the courses now. And these are the components that they get, and they can build really cool projects from hand sanitizer to car to game development and a whole bunch of things, and you can reuse it year to year as well. We do offer facilitator training. I mean, the most critical thing is we're not fly-by-nights, drop a robotics kit, thank you so much, and you know, see you later kind of thing. But to make it a sustainable robotics program, teacher training is critical. I mean, to have a facilitator in your school who champions this program is the most important thing. And if we don't do that, then we've kind of failed at doing so. So we offer teacher training, and that's a 12-hour training program in the beginning where we go through all the courses. We teach you the fundamentals on each course. What are the lab setups, introduction to all the relevant softwares, like you hear Python, you hear Arduino, you hear this, and just to give you an idea of what that is so that you don't feel overwhelmed, how to identify and solve problems where it's coding related or circuit related. And also what we do offer is a year-long technical support for facilitators in schools. So we do school visits, we do online teacher support. You can log a ticket, any hardware related issues, and each school is an individual client for us. It's not like a one solution for all. We consult schools, and that I'll get into of what program works the best for your school, and that's where we assist as much as we can. So obviously if you have an extremely good IT person in your school, it really helps. But if it's just a biology teacher who's extremely excited and running it, this support is so valuable, and this is what we've seen in schools. So I think, to summarize, these are our 5-step offerings, which I think if you can get anything that covers these 5, you are looking at a long-term growth in the field of robotics. So in implementation of schools, we offer 5 learning stream options: novice, adept, apprentice, master, and advanced. Obviously, it describes the difficulty level as you go on. In our novice course for grade 1 to 3, it's computational thinking. It's 40 PDFs each year, which is about an hour each week. And we teach the kids about algorithms, decompositions, patterns, and like abstract techniques. So they learn like coding principles, but using fun little games. And a perfect example of that is if there's a treasure map, I mean, the kids would navigate through it, and then you would kind of ask, is this the best way to get to the end? Are there other ways? So what you are teaching is optimization. What's the best way to get to the other end? And there's like thousands of exercises to start them to start thinking in that way. So by the time they see code, it's not new. It's just a different concept presented differently. And then moving on, I've summarized this, and I'm not going to spend too much time, but I'm happy to do a presentation on. So your learning stream options, which is your adept, apprentice, master, and advanced. We start off with your scratch programming, we move on to electrical circuits, and then we do automated hand sanitizer and smart garden. It's really critical that all the projects that we do is solving a real world problem, because that's where kids really get that aha moment. It actually makes sense, and it's not this mythical thing that's happening, So to actually put your hand and seeing hand sanitizer being dropped because the sensor's detecting your hand is the most priceless thing. Smart garden, agriculture is such a leading topic, and robotics in agriculture is another advancing field. So we teach kids that. We then take it to the next level. We teach them object-oriented programming, where we start with scratch, then they build home automation. And towards the end of that 2-year, whether you implement this in grade 8 or grade 6, you want to see if the skills are transferable. So you do a project, and the best way to explain it is you've taught them how to cook, but now you give them the ingredients, and now you see if they can really build a cool project themselves. So it's the best way to see that. And then you end the year off with Python, because Python is the world's leading language, and every university job, anything, if you know Python, you should be set. So we teach them that. Moving on to high school, we go through the fun. Yeah.
I'm gonna interject there again. Just maybe to frame the, and I'm not sure who the audience is, but Scratch programming, phase 1 or phase 2, that is essentially the block coding fundamentals.
Yes.
And just to put it back into perspective, that is the starting point of the DBE curriculum. Just to let the audience know. So it might be on systems like a computer with, I mean, Scratch is a free downloadable application, and my kids love it when they do that. But the Department of Education is looking at something, the generic of Scratch, to call it block coding, and that can even be done without equipment. And more, yes, that's some of the curriculum suggestions we've seen, where they have like puzzle pieces. It's just linear programming, you know, putting the one piece of paper into the other, but it's the thinking behind that. So it's not Scratch playing, it's Scratch coding so that you can get cause and effect. Maybe just as a little intro there for the audience, that essentially that is where the curriculum for the DBE is going to start.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Riaan. And I think it was started at MIT. All your Lego, if any schools is implementing Lego, you use Scratch-based coding. So the government is also looking at starting with that. So, I mean, a school that's anyway thinking of implementing something like this, you know, it's not a waste. I think even if the government does release a curriculum, you'll be so well set in what you're offering, you can easily adapt and integrate into that. So some of the case studies that I actually want to show you. So before we get into that, I think because of there's a hype around robotics, and I don't want to, the misinformation is big out there. And so it's important for a school to understand the decision tree. You know, if you don't want to do robotics, I think we need to have a chat of why. Riaan will lead that conversation. But if it is a critical thing that you're focusing on, I think it's very critical to map out, you know, is it in curriculum? Is it an extramural club, or is it an online school option? And I'll go more into that in a bit. But the most important thing is let's start off with something. And the project type, as I've mentioned, you have the computational thinking for grade 1 to 3s, your engineering, your computer sciences and data sciences. So it's also looking, maybe you want to do an extramural club in engineering for grade 4 to 6, you're more than welcome to do that. So it's just about identifying how you want to start it. And if you've already started, how do you want to integrate it? So I have some really nice case studies. So the first thing I want to start with is the most basic one. So schools like Cura, Southlands, Hatfield that we're using, they implement an after school club. And the best way to explain that is they have a bunch of kids, but it's more in a formal manner. Say you want to do ad maths in school and there's only 5 kids who want to do it. So then they join our online robotics curriculum academy that runs through the whole year, and they get a certificate of completion at the end of it. It's essentially the most basic and the easiest way to start for a school, you know. And if you have a facilitator, because the online platform is there, you could get a sports coach to start a robotics club even, and you have 20 students and they go through this program, as some of these schools have as well. And then I have St. David's as an example. Very cool. It's an in-curriculum option. They've integrated robotics with their existing curriculum, where they're already doing Lego and they're already doing Sphero. And what they've done is they like certain aspects of our offering. So they like the smart garden. They like the automated hand sanitizer. Maybe they want to do the car. So what they do is they look at that approach and they bring it in at a specific term. So grade 7 term 2, we're going to do Resolute's Python course, for example, which is also another cost-effective way to kind of integrate it into a solution. On that, Woodhill has a really nice way of also doing it. And what they're doing is they're doing a hybrid model, where in technology, you learn a lot about sustainability and electrical circuits and project-based learning. So what they do is they do EGD half the year, and then they do the robotics as the engineering project as the second half of the year. But then as part of their IT time also, they take half of IT to teach the kids Python. So in that way, you are taking your existing curriculum and you're creating time for it. And that should really help you with scheduling as well. And the Rolls Royce that every school we would like to get into is your in-curriculum option. And that is schools like St. Mary's and Leeuwenhof are great examples of that. What they've done is they made it a non-promotional subject like French, and some St. Mary's has done it as an elective. So it may choose a drama, music, art, or robotics. And they have 30 girls who started up this year, and it's been an incredible journey to actually take them through it. Whereas Leeuwenhof has actually made it a priority to do an hour of robotics in their scheduled school time, where all the kids get exposure to that. So, but ideally, this can be overwhelming, and a great place to start is, even if it's clubs, but at least start somewhere, you know? Yeah, before I move on, Riaan, do you want to say anything on that?
Yes, I think it's critical that we just understand that there is an option for it to be, you know, totally outside of school, outside after school club, either separated from school, you know, it could be someone's business, but it could
Yeah.
also be a school activity after school, like choir and sport and something like that.
Yeah.
Then something that I think we've got hopefully quite a few teachers online is the in-curricular space needs to be explored and developed to understand where we can get time, not steal time, but use that time accurately and effectively with the tools of our time to teach a CAPS learning outcome and a CAPS module, if I might put it that way. So we can get creative in that. Rajesh, can you guys assist in finding that time in the curriculum and the timetable so that we can plug something in that? Maybe that's just a question for you.
Yeah, we're more than welcome to do that. I think I've had a good complete look at the CAPS. I mean, they are, so IT, science and technology are just some of the subjects where instead of trying to steal time, you can use some of the time from them. I mean, there's a whole chapter on electrical circuits in science that you spend time on. And in IT, Python, it's just, you could do a whole term on it because kids walk straight into grade 10 and can take IT and it will benefit them at any stage from 7, 8 to 9. And technology for me is an absolute no-brainer. I think EGD is a very critical skill. So that can't, you need to cover that, your engineering-based drawings. But in the other time, your sustainable projects, I think they do recycling projects that build a lot of stuff. So your robotics engineering stuff also kind of integrates in that. And we're very happy to look at it on a school basis to see if they can tell us, listen, we have 10 hours in the year, can we do a project? We're happy to do it as well.
So there's possibly an additional option between column 1 and 2, and that's a during school club. So it's in curriculum, but it's club based. Okay. No, thanks. You can continue.
Perfect. So with our costing, just the computational thinking is completely a separate almost aspect. It's a once-off cost. It is actually your 120 PDFs from grade 1 to 3. You buy it, you get all the resources, you keep it for life. If you buy one of it, it's 10,000. But if you go all the way, you buy all 3 curriculums and it's 24,000. It's actually created by a set of primary school teachers from a set of IB schools that actually looked at what are the critical skills kids need, and they worked with engineers to develop this. So it's very nice. And if you are interested in bringing that in, there's more flexibility in grade 1 to 3. So the primary school teachers can slot it in any way to teach it. It can also be part of mathematics. So moving on to our streams. So how we have it is that, like I said, the duration varies for each course. This is, if you look at a whole stream of it, the kits start at 1,600 Rand and go all the way to 1,900. And then we charge 125 Rand per month. And it can be for a school's duration of 10 months, their school fee a month. And our value is not in the kits, because anyone can go buy a kit from Communica or from anywhere. The value lies in these licenses, because you get the online learning platform, you get the year-long curriculum, you get a master components box. If you order more than 20 kits, all of this is included. You get the teacher training support, you get the technical support, you get the component delivery, and you get a partner in sustainably creating it until the school's ready to take it over. And so for me, the highlight is this. And something very exciting is, Riaan, now that we're in this phase of budgeting, and like the philosophy of us is to partner with the school on a long term and to expose it, we are running a massive promotion specifically where we've kind of made all our kits 999, 999, 999, 999, and our licenses have dropped all the way to 99 Rand per month. And so this is a great, we almost want to live by the motto of, like, we don't want a school to say no. If you're a really big school and budget is a problem, or if you're a really small school, these are our set prices, but please contact us and we are more than happy to integrate with whatever budget requirements you have, because this is not just a let's get this going. It's more a long term of how we can actually implement it. So please don't be disheartened if this doesn't fit in your budget, but rather contact and say, listen, we work it in different ways. And an example is one of the schools is actually using it as a revenue stream as well, where they're getting a facilitator in, they're doing the monthly cost, and they're building on it. So they're making the revenue where they're charging 200 Rand per month, but they're using that 100 every year to actually buy new kits. And that's also another nice way. And this can be skinned in many ways. Maybe the school buys 20 kits, and you share between 2 students, but then you get the parents to pay 100 Rand per month for a license. And so to pay 100 Rand per month for a world-class robotics license is quite a cost-effective solution. And we're also open to, if a school would like a perpetual license as well, where you want to get the kit and you want a once-off solution, we do that. We also offer installment options for schools as well. So please reach out to us. And on that note, I want to say, as promised, the first 50 schools to email nadine@resoluteedu.com, gets free teacher training. It's usually valued at 6,000 Rand per teacher, but we will be happy to do that, where we come through, we take you through all the technology, world tech right now, what our curriculums offer, and we actually build a whole project with you to show you how easy it is. You will build an automated traffic system, and you'll see how easily you can implement it in your school. So please send those emails through. Nadine is ready and waiting. And I want to take some time to answer any questions, Riaan. If you can facilitate, that would be great.
Rajesh, you're very quick today. Steam train, Rajesh. I hope we have all the information. I really like the fact that we're looking at how to get onboarded. So maybe just to summarize, yes, there's a company behind it. Yes, there's tools behind it, but there's a philosophy and a process and possibly a person behind it. Rather, this is not buy something over the counter and it happens at your school. There, from a governing body point of view, and this is me just adding on to this, and this doesn't just go for the robotics at a school, but possibly everything that the tech center for technology, all the tech talks try to do. We've got to set the thinking right, that the vision is right, that leadership takes place, and that the implementation is sustainable. One of the things that we've been saying over the last few weeks, and it's also covered fairly nicely in our magazine, is the fact that we think schools should have something called a CIO, a Chief Information Officer. Data science is a big thing because data is such a big thing, and for the school internally, but also to train the learners. So I think that's very important that we don't just look at a number of a cost and buy something, but there's an implementation and thinking process behind it, and possibly the journey and the relationship with it. So I'm also available to assist schools and consult and just setting thinking in that. But yeah, we're looking at models, we're looking at implementation, and we're looking at possibly expanding our learning journey to include the 21st century skills, to still learn some of the fundamental skills that we need, computational thinking, critical thinking, and that sort of thing. Rajesh, yeah, thanks for that. I appreciate it. Paul's going to share a screen or two. There's a few questions that came in. I don't know if you, I'm going to translate the first one for you there. And I've got a thought behind it as well. It goes to inclusion and accessibility. How accessible is this for learners with other impairments like being blind or that kind of thing? Two of the best programmers that I know are blind programmers. They said they have a speech keyboard to speech headset in their ears, and they code unbelievably successfully, being blind devs or developers. How can you assist in helping learners with blindness? Just open your mic.
I thought someone would never say that to me. I wanted to be that person that says you never on mute, but it happens. I think it's a very good question, Riaan, and I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think we have found a solution from a Resolute perspective to assist the visually impaired learners. But the one thing I can tell you is that any other impairments like slow learning or dyslexia, I think one of our chief content creators, extremely dyslexic. So on that note, our content has to get vetted by a proofreader, which is really cool. But he is a living experience of how dyslexic he is and how ADD he is and how he's managed to do this and do engineering as well. And that's where the online platform helps, because it gives learners with different learning disabilities to actually take their time to learn a concept and to go through. But with specific regards to the visually impaired students, I'm not really sure. I think we need to work on a solution on that.
Yeah. But I know that there's software solutions to convert what keyboard input and output is into text into the ear. Yeah. And yes, I would like whoever asked the question, I think we can speak to Microsoft and possibly Google along those lines, because they do a lot of that. The second question there, do you see it? Do you have to start with computational thinking, or how does the progression go of the models?
So the computation, so we call ourselves very grade diagnostics. I mean, grade agnostic. So essentially our streams, I think computational thinking would be only applicable to grade 1 to 3. Listen, you can do it in grade 4 and 5, but I think it's for kiddies, so I would target it there. But the rest of the courses can go all the way from grade 4 to 8, so, grade 4 to 12. And even in grade 10 to 12, because you don't have that time, and it's so important with the CAP structure, you can do a modular approach. But your grade 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you can start with our lowest stream, which is adept, which starts from scratch coding, and that you can do from grade 8. It doesn't necessarily have to be. I would say computational thinking for grade 1 to 4 maximum. Apart from that, it gets tough.
Okay. The next question, and I think there might be someone in the audience that can add to that. So far, only a draft document has been circulated. Yes, we've seen that. Some provinces going quicker than others, and some schools being nominated already for the pilot process. But is there a date on which the DBE will release the final draft of the planned curriculum? At this point in time, I have no new news. This might be something interesting. Coding and robotics is going to be a new additional subject. Yes, possibly 2020 pilot project with 100 schools will be done, but possibly 2021 now. Moritz Kotze is in the audience. I don't know if he can add some. I know that he's also part of a company that is more on the coding side, or also involved in the coding side of things in the Western Cape, but he was involved. I don't know, Moritz, if you can send me a direct message, I can see if there's anything new. But from my point of view, the DBE has not responded in the past few months to what the plan of action is. So we're still in pilot phase and hoping for some more rollout there. Paul, the next question there for Rajesh.
Yeah, the next questions we're just going to have to verbalize. They came in quite late, so I'm going to stop sharing and we'll just verbalize them. Let me just pull them out the Q&A box as well so we can have a look. Where can I find a robotics CAP curriculum? Someone was looking for Nadine's email address, which we've supplied again. How do you start the process in a high school? And then there is an answer from Moritz with regards to the DBE digital skills. Let me just handle that first, Rajesh. Sorry. Maybe if you can think about the answer of how to start the process in a high school. Moritz, thanks very much. Answer is the DBE digital skills curriculum is in its final stages. It is unfortunately not available. People are working on, it's signed in a non-disclosure agreement, so it's not yet policy. Thanks very much. I think that's great. It gives us a bit of an idea of where it sits from there. And that talks, people have asked about draft curriculum. I think that answers that question there as well. But maybe, Rajesh, how do you start the process in a high school?
Fantastic. Well, it's very simple, I'd say. So without any bias, you can contact us. The process is very easy. I think from your side, if you go through the flowchart and you look at our streams and you want to do the adept stream or the apprentice or the master, please contact us. We'll have a chat with you. We'll see exactly what your requirements are. If you want to do it as an extramural club and everything else that we've discussed. And yeah, so then we place an order for your kits, and then we activate all your students on our online learning platform. We get the teacher training started, and we start the process for next year. So I don't know if that answers it, but essentially that's it in a nutshell.
I want to add to that. I think it's a decision-making process and it's a change management process. It's not necessarily, what do we buy? And for me, that requires, and that's just my input from the side, it requires someone taking leadership and championing this process and making sure it has an established footing in the school process. So I think it's really important that it's a leadership decision, principal, SGB, HODs, that kind of thing, that it's not just something on the side and we're hoping to keep it alive. You've got to launch a rocket with 80% of the fuel in the first hour. So you've got to take care of something to make sure it starts. If the question is, how do we start in high school? Decide to start. And then think about, where do you want to end? You can walk before you run, but you've got to figure out, do we see this as a 3-year implementation period? So just decision-making process at a school. And this is where I think it's critical to be in the budget, even though you decide you don't know what to do yet, but you've got the funding, because 2021, we see a new year, we see a changed world, and we possibly see a few new interfaces on the SGB so that we can just have that flexibility. So that would be my advice to a school. I don't know if one of my FEDSAS colleagues would like to add on a governance side in that. So it's not a robotics decision, it's a change management decision to implement something new in a school.
And then there were two technical questions. Well, to me, they're technical. How much do you see the use of Arduino and microbits in the syllabus? It might as well be Spanish to me. I've got to say, I don't understand it. But maybe we can get back to Edward with regards to that detail. I don't know if Rajesh, have you got any input on that question? Okay, looks like Rajesh.
Yeah, yes. So Arduino and Raspberry Pi, Arduino and Raspberry Pi are both microcontrollers. And so long-term future, Arduino is a massive engineering company, and there's a lot of corporate companies that use it. I don't think it will ever be outdated. It's a cheaper version of Raspberry Pi, where Raspberry Pi is more expensive and more advanced. So I don't think it'll ever be outdated. And the language that you learn in an Arduino is your C++, which is your firmware coding, which you can then transition into C or C#. Any language of coding is easy to transition. Microbits is great. I think it's from BBC. They have a really lot of cool things that you can also do. It's also very compact and very cheap. Actually, I haven't done too much research on the integration with other products that it does, but in itself, it can do a lot of cool things. So also a great place to start.
Yeah, super.
Yeah, sorry, Paul, just to tie the loop on that one, there is already, I saw in your slides, there is some Arduino work in some of the streams as it is.
Oh, yes.
And that's a reusable tool as time goes by. It can be reprogrammed, reset to be, so that is an investment. It's not a cost.
Yes, I think our integral part of every single engineering course, it's the brain essentially, and Arduino. So anything not coding related, we use Arduino, and it's very cost effective, and you can replace it every year, but it has a 3 to 5 year cycle, and it's really a great investment.
Yeah. And there was
final questions.
Yeah, there's another question from Erna. Thanks very much. What are the technical demands or requirements with regards to the physical aspect, i.e. RAM, CPU, graphics? And how advanced do you go with programming for grade 9 learners?
Cool. Good question. With regards to your technical requirements, Wi-Fi is critical, but if a school doesn't have Wi-Fi and really wants to implement it, we can look at hosting it as an offline version where kids can have it at their tablets or on their computers already set up. With regards to your computer specs, I'll get back to that. It's like minimum your 4 GB RAM. It completely depends on if you choose your programming stream. We use Visual Studio to do your Python, and also C# game development also uses Visual Studio IDEs, and both of them we realized works with a minimum of 4 GB RAM to actually function and run through with it. We did do our research before we selected a specific IDE. And with regards to our coding curriculum, well, if you look at, first of all, C# game development, we use Visual Studio, so it's your frames. We teach them how to build all the games using that. It's actually very easy. It's a bit of more, it's not a drag and drop method, you actually program it, but we take them from scratch all the way to building games like Flappy Bird. It does go into classes and object-oriented programming and stuff like that, but we have kids in grade 8 and 9 that have mastered it, and I had to learn it in 4th year, so it's very, very doable. And with regards to Python, yes, that looks good, Paul. Thank you. And with regards to Python, we teach them the Python fundamentals. So everything you need, arrays, for loops, how to set up your code. I can't even think of all the other stuff now. We have a whole curriculum. If someone is looking for it, I'll send that through to you. But then with Python, we also end off with AI, which is very exciting. And you might ask how, but essentially AI is letting the computer think. So through game development, we have 2 courses, artificial intelligent tic-tac-toe and a maze solving robot. So what we're doing is we actually program and we teach the game for the computer to think for itself and play against a human. And that's more towards grade 9 that can all the way go till grade 12. For kids who have done our Python fundamentals, they go into that.
Fantastic. Riaan, have you got any questions to ask? I think we've gone through all the questions that are in play.
I've got a last question, just about the access to internet. So offline solution or poor internet solution, and that stays difficult. My quick response to that, depending on where the school is, but Where I'm sitting, I'm thinking that one should fix your internet problems and not fix a solution, but that's very sinister from me. I'm sitting close to fiber and that sort of thing. But for me, you've got to address that problem from both sides. What are you going to do long term if you're a school with internet connectivity? And I think we've got to put pressure on the government to say, where do we get to the point where the bottom end schools are included as far as the license for the big networks to operate includes that they have to connect schools with some sort of connectivity. But Rajesh, maybe there is some sort of offline solution for you, but then we're going to close. I'll just make a final closing remark.
Yeah, I think if a school is really struggling with Wi-Fi, we can have a chat to the school and how we can make it maybe available as part of the computer, so install it and then they have it, but then it's an in-class solution. The kids won't be able to obviously take it home and stuff like that unless the kids have Wi-Fi at home. But we can take that on our audience a per case basis.
Okay, brilliant. Rajesh, we've come to the end of our time, but there's still questions coming in. I'm gonna confirm Arna's last question. So when a learner starts with IT in grade 10, some concepts will already have been mastered. Yes, my kids drive with me every day. And before they get to the age of 17 to take their learner's license, they know that I turn on the indicators before I do a turn. So we've got to go to the point where we don't teach towards the curriculum, but we teach towards the life. Yeah, so opening up the questions, my email address is tech@fedsas.org.za, tech@fedsas.org.za. I'd love to keep this conversation going, but thanks for it, Rajesh. I see our CEO joined us on screen. I'm hoping he has valuable input, but he's always welcome. Paul, wil jy graag vir ons ietsie sê?
Thank you, Riaan. Thank you, Paul, for letting me into the room. Well done, brilliant presentation. But I was just a little concerned. Helen asked the question, what must the email to Nadine contain? And that one hasn't been answered. So I would imagine it would be the school's name and contact details only. But I would appreciate it if you could just answer Helen's question. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Paul. Rajesh, the email call to Nadine was the first 50 schools that sign up. So how do you express interest for that? So it's not 50 schools that sign up for, well, just clarify, is it sign up for the training or sign up for the discussion with Resolute or sign up for a curriculum? What does the email to Nadine have to contain so that we can take this discussion further?
Yeah, so two things. If you're the first 50 schools that's vying for the teacher training that we are offering, I think just say on the subject line, oh my gosh, so excited, can't believe we're going to win this. FEDSAS, Resolute Robotics, can we please make this happen? And, just send us your school name and pretty much where you're based, and we'll mention, please say, I really like the streams, I like the computational thinking, I like this, or could we please set up a meeting to set something up very custom made for our school, or can we discuss finances, and we'll take it from there. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks so much. I see we've lost some of our audience already, people having left at 1:45, where we usually... Paul, I'm going to allow you to quickly finish up for us, but thanks so much, Rajesh. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Thank you, Paul, for hosting again. Exquisite work from FEDSAS Online. Thank you for the support to Tech Talk.
Super. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Cheers.
Thanks, Rajesh. Thanks for the input, and thank you for our CEO, Mr. Paul Colditz, for coming on board as well and creating clarity. Upcoming webinars, folks, we are busy developing, under construction, and we've run through our catch-up session, and we think we've covered most of the details at the moment. But please remember that our webinars are going to be available. You just need to get hold of the provincial managers. Tech Talk on Tuesday will continue. Probably by the end of this week, we'll have a new schedule out with regards to webinars for the next month or so. I don't want to say term. We're a bit confused as to where terms and days are at the moment. Riaan spoke about our FEDSAS Teach Talk magazine, our e-magazine. Please have a look at it. There's lots of vital information. We dropped a link in the chat box as well, so you can pick up on that information. And also, please follow us on the various social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Follow us on those. Provincial managers' details, once again, just in case you haven't got them, there they are all the way throughout the country, from the Eastern Cape all the way down to the Western Cape and all the provinces in between. And there's also Riaan's details if you need to get hold of him from there. And with that, yeah, thanks very much. I'll give the final word to Riaan. Thanks very much for your involvement. Really good numbers came on board, way more than the 80% that normally attend free sessions. So we're really chuffed on that. Thank you very much for everybody's time. Riaan, over to you for the last word.
Yeah, happiness. Thanks so much, everybody. Donkey Paul. Maybe just on next week, we'll be discussing changes in education in Tech Talk with two principals at least lined up. Duke van Rensburg, previously from Ligbron Academy. So looking at not post-COVID, but in COVID, post-COVID schooling and education, as well as Arthur Underay from School in Droste, where they've done amazing innovation work there, and looking at one or two other principles just to share with us their positioning into this new world. And then 2 weeks from now, we'll be looking at coding as well. So just on the same train of thought, we've got various members in the Center for Technology, and robotics is one big stream, and then coding and critical thinking is another one. So thank you for joining us. Look out for our schedule, but we're looking forward to next week with some principals and retired principals looking at education. Thank you so much for joining us. See you next week. Take care.
Sure.